You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Syracuse basketball does not appear to be done adding in the transfer portal. When they added Cincinnati forward Tyler Betsey just a couple of days ago, I mentioned that I don't think Syracuse basketball is done because they have 12 players under scholarship now on the roster, and well, the NCAA now permits 15 scholarship players. So while they may not fill all 15, it's likely that Syracuse adds at least one or two more players in the transfer portal. And so earlier today, Monday, May 5th, we found out that Syracuse has expressed or reached out to another transfer portal player. According to Sam Kaiser, 24/7 High School Hoops over on Twitter, Syracuse is among the teams that reached out to Miami transfer Paul Djobet, and the other teams that have reached out to him include Louisville, Clemson, Missouri, Georgia Tech, Cal, Utah State, Nevada, High Point, and Oregon State. Let's go over the bio and the stats of Paul Djobet and what he could possibly bring to Syracuse basketball. Djobet is 6'7". He's 195 pounds, and he's got 2 more years of college eligibility remaining. Again, with the eligibility, while it's certainly nice that Syracuse is targeting players and getting players that have multiple years of college eligibility, with the exception being Nate Kingz from Oregon State, it really does not matter because if Syracuse does not win next season, all the players are probably gone anyway. But if they do win next season, hey, they got multiple years of eligibility, so we could see them back for another season, right? So that's the positive way of looking at the years of eligibility here. Last season, Paul Djobet played in 28 games for Miami. He averaged about 16 minutes per game, 5.5 points, 2.5 rebounds, 47% field goal shooting, and 38% three-point shooting on about 1 attempt per game. Oh, by the way, I should mention that Paul Djobet tied a season high with 13 points against Syracuse last season. He went 5 of 7 from the field, 3 of 3 from the three-point line. It just goes to show you how pretty much everyone around the nation ate against Syracuse basketball. You play against Syracuse basketball, that probably added $50,000 to your NIL because you were going to have a good game, which increased your averages, which, increases your NIL. Can he shoot? Can he defend? If you recall earlier this offseason, we did an entire podcast going over, it was at the time just a few transfer portal targets, and we analyzed whether or not the targets could shoot the ball well or if they could defend. And if they really couldn't do either, well, were they just damn good? Are they just so good to the point where it really doesn't matter if they aren't necessarily great shooters or they're not necessarily great defenders? Actually, that's Nathan George. Nathan George averaged 12 points and 7 assists last year at Georgia Tech. He's not a great outside shooter, although he is getting better from the three-point line. And he's not a great defender either. Having said that, 12 points and 7 assists leading the conference in assists last season, you're pretty damn good. So I think we can make an exception to a guy like Nathan George as far as not necessarily being the greatest shooter or not necessarily being the greatest defender. But when it comes to other transfers, guys who aren't in the top 50 or top 75 overall, you would hope that they have 1 or 2 of those attributes. It's kind of important. So that's why we asked, can a player shoot or can a player defend? Can he shoot? Kind of. Paul Djobet can kind of shoot. In 2 seasons in college basketball, he shoots over 39% from the three-point line. I think we can all agree that over 39%, close to 40%, is a really, really strong three-point percentage, especially from a guy, which we'll talk about later on in the show, projects as more of a depth piece for Syracuse basketball if they go out and actually get a guy like Paul Djobet. However, he only shoots, ready for this, exactly 1.2 three-point attempts per game in his 2 seasons in college basketball. There is a reason why I am more excited for a guy like Nate Kingz coming from Oregon State. And the reason why is not just because he shoots nearly 45% from the three-point line, it's the amount of attempts that he did it on. Nate Kingz shot 45% from the three-point line on over 4 attempts per game. So that sample size increases, and yet he still was connecting at such a high efficiency rate. With Paul Djobet, 39% from the three-point line for your career, I can't deny it. That's a really good percentage. But on just about 1 three-point attempt per game. So he doesn't necessarily get that green check of can he shoot? But he also, I'm not going to give him an X either for can he shoot. It's more of I'm going to give him a yellow check mark. He can shoot. It's just on limited attempts. So if he comes to Syracuse next year and shoots at a same rate, but maybe it's 2 to 3 three-point attempts per game, well, then he gets a lot, he becomes a lot more valuable for Syracuse basketball. Next up, can Paul Djobet defend? No. Paul Djobet does not project as a really strong defender for Syracuse basketball. If you recall, there was one team in the ACC a year ago that had a worse defense than Syracuse basketball. I know it's hard to believe given how bad Syracuse basketball was on defense last year, but there was someone worse. And that was the Miami Hurricanes. They let up over 80 points a game a year ago. And Paul Djobet, he did not exactly help. I wouldn't say that he hurt in that regard, but he didn't exactly make them better. He averaged a half steal a game, 0.3 blocks a game, and he had an Evan Maya defensive rating of negative 1.12. That means if there are 9 average Division I players on the floor and Paul Djobet is the 10th player, the team with Paul Djobet going up against 5 average D1 players would be over 1 point worse defensively per 100 possessions. It should be noted that he was graded out as a better defender in 2024, and that's in part because Miami was a better team defensively. They still weren't good. They were 11th in the ACC out of 15 teams in 2024, but if you look at the point total disparity, 2025 they allowed about 80 points per game defensively. The year prior, it was about 73 points allowed defensively. And Djobet, his rating was positive 0.68 on defense, and that was good for 6th on the team. So basically, here's the deal with a guy like Paul Djobet as far as his defense. He has been, over the past couple of seasons, a median defender relative to his team, and his team hasn't exactly been good defensively. So is Paul Djobet a good defender? No. Can he kind of shoot? Yeah.